That's all right. Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. Right. Okay, that's better. Hello, welcome back to the second half of our Meet the Funders workshop this morning. Welcome back if you've managed to stay with us on Zoom. Thank you. And we are sorry for the technology issues that we've been having. And I hope that this second half will be better. We've made some amendments and tried to get the sound to work properly. So keep letting us know if it doesn't. So next up we have Jane Owens from Transformation Cornwall, who is going to talk to us about funders who are particularly interested and happy to fund buildings.
Great, thank you, Liz. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. I have to say we've got a whole load of resources from today, so copies of all the PowerPoints, so particularly for online people who've been having so many problems, we'll be having kind of copies of those kind of presentations all sent out, and we'll also look to kind of provide information, particularly for the online people where they've missed off. Right, so my name is Jane Owens. I head up an organisation called Transformation Cornwall, and the whole Meet the Funders programme is delivered in partnership between Transformation Cornwall and the Diocese of Truro. 2021 is our 9th year of running the Meet the Funders programme, and we're looking forward to our 10th year in 2022. So we'll be doing we've got some exciting things planned for that. We're going to be developing those plans before Christmas, and we'll have some information out in our Transformation Cornwall and some diocese Christmas newsletters around that programme. So just to kind of give you an overview, Meet the Funders is a year-long programme. It does what it says on the tin, called Meet the Funders. So generally starting with a spring event where we have key local and national funders under one roof. Ordinarily, last year we did go online, but ordinarily, pre-COVID, we would be in one venue with the funders. So we would have kind of along there, typically All Churches Trust, maybe the Joseph Frank Trust, Heritage Lottery or the National Lottery, National Churches Trust, and a couple of kind of community funders. So we've had great support from Cornwall Community Foundation in the past, and we'd also maybe have Cornwall Historic Churches Trust, and maybe also a couple of kind of community supermarket carrier bag funders. So our idea is we put all those funders under one roof with about 100 projects and people and projects who are developing social action, primarily faith-based social action within their communities, and we give them a pass here and we kind of run that event there. As I say, last year we did it online, so we've got resources from that event on our website, and I'll be sending links to all of that out after today's event. So our spring event is then followed by 6 community workshops, and this is number 6 in our community workshop programme 2021. We've got recordings because they've all been online, that we have very successful recordings on our website, and I'll point you to those links after when we send out to you all. But today I'm going to be talking about funding for building projects. So let's go. Hang on, am I moving on? Okay, right. So, session overview. So what I'm going to look at today is getting started, those first steps. I'm going to look at some funders who might be interested around funding for building projects. I'm going to give you some resources for your funding journey, and I'm also going to give you some what next. So I'm going to stand off of giving you homework, but I'm hoping that with those what next steps, then I'll give you some dates and events and resources for the future, so that you can go away from today with doing a little bit of planning, and then we can kind of pick that up with you in the future. Okay. So next slide, please, Daniel.
Okay, so the vision. This is always where I would say to any project whatsoever. The vision is the bigger picture. Now, a lot of the stuff that Stephen has been speaking about, I would actually say that kind of first thought, those first thoughts on what to do with the project is all about your vision. And I just really like that title. It's actually, what are you doing? What are you going to be getting out of bed for? So I'm going to start by giving you an example of what a vision does for your project. So a vision is the absolute first step. It's your bigger picture. It's an aspirational description of what an organisation would like to achieve or accomplish in the mid or long-term future. It serves as a clear guide for choosing current and future courses of action and gives a context for all decision-making. It ensures that decision-making is in accordance with what the organisation wants to achieve. And a vision statement will tell those inside and outside your church the reason for this project's existence. And I've put up here a slide that I've previously used in an example of how a vision works. I've chosen the example of a project church hall refurbishment. Now, are you trying to renovate this hall as it's a bit shabby? Or is a renovated hall vital for undertaking the work that your vision calls for? Your people, and by that I mean your congregation, community, project team and funders, may not really mind or care that your hall is a bit shabby. Although they might recognise the fact, they aren't really necessarily looking to do anything about it right now. But they can be motivated and inspired by your vision. They can understand that your project is worthwhile, and they can understand what you can achieve with a renovated hall. So here's the difference. St Barnabas Church Hall Committee would like to refurbish our hall so that we can hire it out to more people in our parish. We would like to get new chairs, tables and curtains, install a new heating system, update our toilet facilities, and install a kitchen area. Great. Or, our vision is to develop St Barnabas Church Hall into a place of light, warmth, and welcome, so we can better share our space to meet the spiritual and social needs of the whole community. To enable that, we need, and then you talk about your heating and your curtains and all of that kind of thing. Okay, next slide, please, Daniel. So, getting started your community, and Stephen, you did a great, you showed us this and also spoke about this. Your project needs to be a community project. So the basic aim of most building projects is likely to be that more people use the building and benefit from doing so. So you need to find out exactly what your local community both already has and wants from its church. This is your opportunity to create a plan of action that responds to identified needs and is led by the local community. So bear in mind that the result of talking to your community may well mean that you have to change your original ideas. So don't get stuck on that original idea. If we go back to the church hall refurbishment, we might have a plan on what we need. But as you talk to your community, you won't go off your central vision, but your central vision will be flourished by ideas from your community. And sometimes your community will have ideas that are not practical, not feasible, but just put them on the table. Just be brave and just invite them along. So, carrying out a community audit, and I think I often hear, actually, do I need to be quiet about the church, about the village hall or the amenities within my parish? And absolutely not. It's about openly and honestly carrying out that community audit. Look at everything that is already in your community. What does your community already have? What services are currently provided? What services are missing? Look also at local development plans, on changes in kind of housing or public transport. Are there any plans in the pipeline that's happening? So put it all onto the table. Once you've got that information, consult with your community about what they think of the existing services. So very often in that consultation with your community, absolutely the village hall might run a toddler group that you're looking to develop it in your project. But maybe that toddler group is only run once a week in the mornings, and actually it's had a waiting list for more than a year, and it's really, really noisy and doesn't have very good young baby facilities. And so just ask your community, this is where you get some of the detail about those existing services. What ideas do local people have? And who else can you talk with? What local businesses can help you with your project? Are you talking to kind of carers? Is there kind of a lack of kind of memory cafes or kind of carers respite services in the area? How can you really develop your project? Always in that kind of community audit, make plans to analyse the results. What are you going to do with them? And make sure that those results are fed back to the community to show that you've listened. If you're asking for their advice, you need to let them know what was heard from the community, share those ideas, and actually show that you're listening. It doesn't need to show that you're going to do that, but that you've listened and that you've considered that. Okay, I'm going to put here an example of a funding example. So the Heritage Lottery Fund. Now, the Heritage Lottery Fund currently has 3 grant schemes, and they fund projects that connect people and communities to the national, regional and local heritage of the UK. They've got their small grant scheme between 3 and 10k. They've got their medium grant scheme between 10 and 250k, and then they've got their large scheme over 250k, which is primarily for kind of cathedrals or very, very large churches. So I want to I've put on this slide the priority outcomes for 2021 and 22 of Heritage Lottery Funds, and I just really want to kind of stress that the mandatory outcome of any Heritage Lottery Fund bid will be that a wider range of people will be involved in heritage. So really kind of just think about the Heritage Lottery Fund. They're funding people. They're not funding buildings. Those people have got to understand, be inspired by and own that building, if that makes sense. They're not going to fund or a building that is not used by people. They want that those people, they want the vibrancy of the building, and actually this is only common sense. Actually, all of our buildings, they can't exist for existence sake. They need to. Buildings are lively. Buildings are about the people within them, about the community that they serve. So I really wanted to kind of stress on that. Also, there's other outcomes for Heritage Lottery Fund to boost the local economy, encourage skills development and job creation and support well-being, create better places to live, work and visit, and improve the resilience of organisations working in heritage. Now, your application might well fit all of those other schemes, but don't worry too much about those. Those are kind of secondary. It's that mandatory one that you want. Any application there, how is my local community going to be involved in the heritage of this building? I've also put on there their environmental sustainability requirement, and you will see this more and more within all funding applications, that all of our projects are asked to do their best to help mitigate against and adapt to the changing climate and help nature recover. So we're going to be talking about kind of buildings with kind of sustainable heating systems, about kind of linking in with public transport services, I don't know, encouraging bike use, the whole gamut of kind of environmental responses. Next slide. Okay, now I've put some highlights here of some funders for faith buildings. And so I've got, as I say, all of the slides will be going out to everybody. And so you'll have all of these links if you're not already knowing them. So firstly, All Churches Trust. They provide community funding, advice and resources to support churches and charities to meet community needs and protect heritage buildings and skills, primarily capital grants. Cornwall Historic Churches Trust assists in the restoration and repair of Cornish churches which have architectural or historic merit. National Churches Trust support places of worship of historic, architectural and community value used by Christian denominations. They provide grants for urgent repairs and community facilities and helping places of worship keep their buildings in good repair. Joseph Frank Trust, an independent grant maker working with all Christian denominations in the UK. The principal object of the trust is to advance the Christian faith to further the kingdom of God. They provide capital grants and revenue grants. The National Lottery Community Fund. Now, I know that this isn't applicable to all churches and faith organisations, but they're pretty well known, and they support projects which help communities and people in need. Again, capital and revenue grants. Now, the good news here is that all of these funders and more were at our spring event in May 2021, and we have links to all of the presentations that those funders did on our website, and we'll be sending that out to you on that. We are yet to do invites, but we are hoping to flourish our offering for 2022, as I said. I have some copies of the resource doc here, and for those online, the resource document is actually a downloadable resource document, and we'll send you out that link. But it has, if anybody's already had a look through, it's got the contact details for all of those funders, plus an awful lot more, and some kind of hints and tips that are going along your way. It's a really useful thing. Thanks. Great. Okay, so resources. I've got here one of the resources that I can't recommend enough is something called Crossing the Threshold Toolkit, and it's a step-by-step. It was created by Hereford Diocese, I think in 2017, but it has since been updated. Updated in detail. I think it's been updated a couple of times actually, but it's a really, really good resource. It's quite thick, but very, very readable. As I say, that link is on that slide too, but it is a step-by-step guide to managing a church building project. And I'm also put a slide up here for resources for environmental buildings. So you are going to be needing this and well, hopefully wanting this within your project. And I've put up here some links for a Rocha, which is an initiative of Eco Church. They've got some fantastic, very tailored resources on buildings on their website, and the link is on that slide. I've also got some resources from the Church of England. They've got they dedicate a large area of their kind of funding and their buildings to environmental and climate change advice. And I have to say they have some fantastic webinars that are coming up and also recorded that you can watch back. They've also got some great net zero carbon case studies. And Eco Church Southwest, so we've got examples on there, I don't know, of compostable toilets, we've got solar panels, we've got ground source heat pumps within their website under their case studies all across the Southwest. Next. And we've also got our community workshop programme that we've already delivered in 2021. Obviously, it's been a huge learning experience for us. We have previously done our community workshops all online, so I don't think we've ever had such a stressful day with IT as today when we're doing it blendable. But what it has offered us is actually recordings from all of the workshops, so that's a great resource to kind of go back to look at how do you carry out a consultation, how do you find the data for those kind of funding bids, how do you demonstrate need, what does this question in a funding application. So I've just put there a couple of, some of the slide areas that we've covered. I've also got the FOR and Cornwall Community Foundation. We sometimes within our community workshops we get a funder come into a workshop. Although traditionally that's done with the spring event, but anyway, as I say, it was all a learning experience in the last 2 years. Next slide, please. Okay, so what's next? So we've got the Meet the Funders programme 2022. As I say, we will have some concrete plans on what that's looking like in our kind of Christmas newsletter. So we're mid-November now, so in December I would hugely recommend, although this is a partnership programme between Transformation Cornwall and the Diocese, Transformation Cornwall do all of the admin for the Meet the Funders. So really, if you're looking for one place to go and look at, it would be the Transformation Cornwall website. And if you sign up to our newsletter, or we've got a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram account, then that is the best place to kind of hear of kind of things coming up. I'm really excited about the Meet the Funders February workshop. We are looking, what we do on Meet the Funders is we don't try and reinvent the wheel. I really like that. And we try and take an absolutely common sense approach and pull together the expertise and the resources that we currently have into one area. One of the things that we do throughout the programme is we have something called our Experts for Experience. We've heard from Stephen, who is one of the who's here, and also being in our what we call our live venues, so that we've got the expertise for actually what happens on this project. Go and speak to Tom at so and so, and don't do that. That's those are the things that are actually going to spur you into action. So we're looking to develop those case studies, but in that Meet the Funders workshop, in the February workshop, we'll be looking to have kind of Cornwall Council planning, we'll be looking to have a heating installer, we'll be looking to have Community Energy Plus, and some great experts for experience. So we're working that up, but I think that we'll be looking at kind of sustainable church buildings. We'll also have our Meet the Funders spring event. So from today, kind of shaping up your project, do a little bit of research in that kind of, go to the resource document, kind of think about the funders that you are going to be approaching. So you don't need to have that in huge detail, but certainly at Meet the Funders spring event, do speak to them. Well, we don't know how next year is going to be, whether we're going to be online or whether we're going to be in person. But make sure that you actually can go up and speak to them. If we're in person, we do what's called a marketplace. So we encourage that kind of opportunity to speak with a funder, and that funder doesn't need to know all the detail. They're not going to want to trip you up, but they are the experts at, oh, this has happened, yes, we funded this is a really good person for you to speak to. And no, I don't think, an example would be Joseph Frank Trust. Well, don't put in a lift, put in a disabled lifting platform because you can get the back. Those kind of ideas are what the whole programme is about, and often that kind of expertise can come through to funders. They don't expect you, before you've even put an application in, to have all of those solutions worked up. They'll be signposting you that way. I've also got on that slide the kind of how to join our mailing list. And also we're at the end of a phone or at the end of an email. We try and kind of get to that. We're a small team at Transformation COMMUN. It's myself and Daniel, and then we're ably assisted by Liz at the diocese. So one of us will have the solution, but actually working up those ideas, get in touch with us, and we'll kind of put you in touch with somebody who's already developed a project like that, or just give you kind of thoughts. We're there to kind of hold your hand as you work up your projects and take you through pretty step of the way. I think my final slide is my contact details. Yeah, great. Okay, so that's my details, but yeah, get in contact. I'll be speaking to those of you that are here, or well, we all will be over past lunch. But for those online, just get in touch.
Thank you, Jenny. I think it's really, really useful. So much there to take in. But it's great we've got the slides for people to be able to revisit and look at those again. And one of the things that struck me as well was actually the funders that are very happy for people to phone them up. So before you start making your applications, isn't it? It's a good idea to give them a call and say that this is what we're planning, this is what we're thinking of doing. Is this something that you will be able to fund? And they'll be delighted, won't they, to talk to you and to help you along those lines and to guide you. They might say, no, we wouldn't fund that, in which case we need to go elsewhere, but it would have saved you an awful lot of time in starting an application. So what's coming up next? Well, I'll let you hand over your headset to Mike, because I think we'll leave any questions till right to the end now. And then we'll hand it over to Mike, who is our official expert for experience today. And Mike is from this church where we're broadcasting, St Martin's in Liscard, who had a huge project a few years ago now. How many years ago? 2018, not that long ago. And he's going to share today about that journey that they went on and and probably tell us some of the pitfalls as well as all the positives that come out from this project.
No, we are there.
You are there. So thank you, Mike, for talking to us today. I'll hand over.
Yeah, that's grand. Welcome, and great to welcome you here to St Martin's Church. Can you share the slides, please? So this is a reordering project we did here, and so there's St Martin's Church. If you're not familiar with it, and you'll notice 15 kilowatts of solar panels on the roof that we got in. So we get quite a good feed-in tariff. We get about £2,300 a year from those. And the project was about, I think I think it'll be Chris Whitty. Next slide, please. So this is what the church looked like before. It was literally full of pews. The capacity in this church is about 500 people. And once we reopened and we had the Remembrance Sunday, we certainly had we had about 550 people in here. The kids were sitting on the floor, but it was warm. They enjoyed it. So if we move on, that was what it was. It was quite dark, very dark wood. And so we changed that, and that's what it now looks like for those who aren't physically here. Much lighter, much area, and much more flexible space. So if we move on to the next slide, please. Why did we do this project? Well, the primary reason was we had some 30-year-old boilers that were massive, and they threw out hot air, and it worked. It really did work until they broke. We got them fixed, and then they broke, and they got them fixed, and they were breaking more regularly, and it got to the point where actually they both were out of commission. So for 3 years, we had no heating in this church at all. And come the winter, we would go down to the church hall complex. We've got a great complex down there, and the more traditional service was in our lower hall, and the family service was in the upper hall, and that's how we operated for 3 years. But we wanted something. We've been wanting to get rid of the pews, and we've been trying to do that for ages. And the Archbishop of Canterbury came into this church. And he started off by saying, well, you're going to not like this because we got rid of the pews, but they weren't as great as these. People said, get rid of them. He said they're exactly like these. So we wanted to get rid of it because the pews were uncomfortable. They really were not nice to sit in. And we wanted something that would be flexible for all sorts of things. So since we've done this work, we have held our autumn fairs in here. So we get rid of all the chairs, put tables in, and there's a big event. We hold concerts, we have a cinema club in here. We do all sorts of things that would have been much more difficult under the old system. Next slide, please. So what did we actually do? Well, we removed most of the pews. Now, as Stephen said, actually, our pews were on a wooden floor, and you drop down between 6 and 12 inches to soil underneath. So there was damp, there was no insulation, but it also made it very easy for us to do what we're going to be doing, which was installing underfloor heating. So we got rid of the pews, but we actually recycled a lot of them. So we have in the corner here, when we come to look at it, a creche area. That was all made out of the pews. We moved the best pews to the north wall, which is over here for those in the building. And then we also made some sort of benches for gardens, and people bought benches made out of the pews. And then we sold the balance to a carpenter who was delighted to have, because this is really old wood, and it was actually quite good quality compared with what you can get these days. So a lot of that was recycled. Next slide, please. It was rather strange when we were putting the underfloor heating in to actually see this building without the pews and with diggers in it. You walk into a church and we could kind of peek from the door. It wasn't our building. We had to hand the building over to the contractors, and it was their responsibility. We didn't actually sort of have the right to come into our church. Had to ask permission. But we installed that underfloor heating, and as Stephen said, we put the insulation in underneath it, so it was an opportunity to start to build that. I've been filling in the Eco Church. We were the first church in Cornwall, first Church of England church in Cornwall to get the bronze. And it asked about insulation in the church, and I said, it's underfloor. And they said, is it, the windows, is it the roof? But they didn't give me the option. I didn't get any points at all for having underfloor heating, so I'm quite disappointed about it. So we put underfloor heating in, and as we move on to the next slide, please, we built a lovely kitchen area. So we use this for lots of events. So we have a nativity, a sort of a musical rock nativity every year, which is sort of written each year, and people standing up singing with silly songs. And so we had a bar in the corner. We created, and there's food and there was wine, and we used the settle machine to take money for people who didn't have cash. So that's card readers. And there's just so much more we can do in this space now with that kitchen. And on the other side, from the kitchen, we've got that creche area, which I said we made from all the wood from the pews. And in the tables underneath there, we've got all the AV equipment, there's stuff for the kids, and it's a sealed area. You've got the child gate. And so, I've had my 2-year-old twins in there, and it's fantastic. It's a nice country city. It's great there. We move on. I will repeat the apology, because this slide then says we've got top level AV. Well, we do actually, but we are designed, our church now streams live. So everything we've got here is about live streaming, and Zoom requires a different approach. It was just, we've never ever done Zoom from this church before, so apologies for those who've struggled with it. But it's great, and we have Wi-Fi throughout the church. We have a meshnet system, so if you're in an airport, you wander around on their Wi-Fi, you don't have to keep changing to a different code. That's what meshnet means. So we've got the router out in the outer room there, where we put a phone line in, and then we've got 3 repeaters around the church. So as you wander around, you should still get a good signal. What else do we do? Well, in the far corner over there, we have the War Memorial. We have some memorials in the back where the creche was going to be, so we physically moved those over to the War Memorial area. And when we do the walk round, we've got a screen that we're really actually very pleased of. We installed that edge glass screen. So can you move on to the next slide, please? Because I forgot to tell you to do that. So you can see the etching here. It's not that good on the photo because actually it's glass and you see through it. But you're looking through that to the War Memorial frieze, and there's Christ in the centre. And this is the last battle, which we thought was really appropriate for a War Memorial, because this is St. Michael defeating the devil in Revelation 12, or the battle there. It's a wonderful screen. If you move on to the next slide, please. Sort of the second phase of the project, then we had a complete refurbishment of the Lewis organ. And we were really blessed because somebody in our congregation paid for the whole bit of the organ. It was just, we've got this money, it was designed for this, it's not going to be used for that anymore, you have it for the organ. And we were talking 60,000. Because that was a complete rebuild of that organ. It was not small. There's about, I think there's 2,000 to 3,000 pipes in there that were all taken out and cleaned and had to be put in order. If we move on, we look at project costs, because most people will say, well, what did this cost? We had an original quote of 462,000. Then we added the organ refurbishment. It didn't take the whole 60,000, but I got permission to make sure you do this. If you're given money for a particular purpose, ask if it's not needed, can I move it across? Otherwise, it would just have to sit in an organ fund, and hopefully we won't need to be spending lots of money on the organ now it's being completely refurbished, apart from the routine servicing. As with any project, you start thinking, no, we don't really want that, can you change this? So there are always changes to any project that you've got. We finished the project, and then I went to the congregation and said, we've got a beautiful church now. We haven't got any chairs, because that wasn't in our budget. So you're welcome to come. We have the pews on the north side. You will know the saying, the weak can go to the wall. That's because so the weak can go and sit in the pews. Everybody else is standing. It's what used to happen in a church. But if you'd like to see, can we actually ask you to buy some? So we actually had 2 chairs, the wooden chairs, which are £100 each, just over, and the metal chairs, which are £50 each. And we said, we've got the card reading machine, no problem at all. If you haven't got cash on you, we can take credit card. And we basically got most of that money given at the last minute because people said, I want to be able to sit in my church. So it was a good system. And then the AV system we added in after. So the total was nearly £600,000 when we look at this whole project. We move on. So how do we fund that? Well, we got external grants of 219. We had a closed church, St. Pinnock, which then merged into our parish. They had sold a church hall, and the money was sat in their bank account. And when we took over the parish, we gained the money. And virtually all of that money went into the project. To be honest, God moved in a mysterious way, because we would have really, really struggled with this project. You don't like to see churches closed, but actually there was an ongoing benefit to us from that. We took 45 out of parish reserves. So we had a particular fund, we've got an endowment fund, and we've built up some income from that we hadn't spent. And we had some other donations, including a legacy that we put towards it, 100,000 from those. So that gave us £520,000. Then we had the extra donation from the organ. Actually, I misled you. We only got half the money for the chairs. That's we had to take out of reserves, but we got half the money with a little balance there. So it's if we look at next slide, we look at where the grants came from. Viridor Credits was the landfill grant, and that was our major grant funder. And that was way outside the local. It had to go up to London to get approval. And it looks a strange number because they said, we will fund this and this and this. So you break the project down into the cost of different elements, and they will place that. Listed Place of Worship scheme obviously came in and helped us with the VAT. Garfield Western surprised us. That was a great one. And when we were putting the grant applications in, they would normally say up to 10,000. Or National Churches Trust, typically it'll be X or Y. And I said, look, I realise it's that, but if you are able to give us more because of this, this, and this, please do. And several of them gave us more than what they were actually saying. So just don't be afraid. If they give you that, say this would be wonderful if you can do, but if you're able to do a little bit more, that would be really, really helpful to us. So Bernard Sunday Charitable Foundation, to be honest, I've never heard of it. But we applied. I'd done a lot of research trying to find out what was available, and we applied, and that came in. All Churches Trust would like to give a little to a lot of people, and they're one of the ones that will be an early funder, which will then help you to go and say, I've already had support from this funder or that one. Rank we got, and Cornwall Historic Churches Trust I was told, do not do reordering. But there were specific aspects of the project that they would fund. So again, it comes back to talking to the funders and knowing what it is that they will deal with. But that lot is 220. So you saw a £600,000 project, 220 rather, came from external funding. So if we flip to the next slide and you look at the pie chart as to where the money came from, you can see there's not exactly, but it's a third in rough numbers between external grants from our own reserves and donations and fundraising. And I was expecting to get more from the grants, but it was hard work. And everything I'm learning so far is you really do need to look at community sustainability and issues like this now, rather than just building projects per se. We've got an old one that needs doing up. If it's I'm going to replace like with like, and there's no real change going on, you're going to struggle, I think. Lessons learned. Nearly there. Next slide, please. Sorry. Funding applications take time, and tailor each application to the individual funder. Don't try and write a generic one and send it out to loads of people. You've really got to look at what they are wanting to support. As we saw, well, can you do this little bit of it? Actually, there's loads of people who seem to want to support kitchens and toilets and churches. And when we come to look at our next project, which is the hall complex, I'm finding quite a few that are quite happy with youth work and children's work and stuff like this. So identify the aspects that you can work on. Work with the relevant bodies and stakeholders. So English Heritage, Society for Protection of Ancient Buildings, they don't like the Society for Protection of Ancient Buildings, they don't like underfloor heating because it means ripping up ancient floors. Actually, when you have a floor like ours, which was wood with a gap, that's easy. That was a relatively simple hurdle to get over. But if you are trying to take up ancient monuments, they really don't like it. But work with them. Don't be afraid to disagree with them. We had all sorts of suggestions from some of the bodies. Oh, why couldn't you just do this? Couldn't you just do that? Can you have lots of more little spaces that you can just on top? And I said, no, that's not our vision. That's not what we're trying to achieve. And we made compromises. So the pews, and actually I think it was a good decision. And then they suggested we keep some of the best pews, and so they went over to the north wall, and we've kept the pews in the Lady Chapel and in the chancel, the choir pews. So we've got a nice mix, and we recycled material, so it's got a feel of being. So when you walked in, it was still our church. It was recognisably St Martin's, but very different. You can see the two. You're going to need to work with the architect, the DAC. I mean, DAC. I was getting quite frustrated because it took. They kept coming back saying no, no, no. I contacted Audrey, our archdeacon, and said, "What's going on here?" He said, "Have you seen your application?" "No." "Come and have a look." It was a huge project, and we just hadn't given the details. So we actually sat down with Audrey, went through, and it got through next time. So you really need to work with DAC. You need a detailed costings. Absolutely, this place of worship wouldn't even consider us until we had a detailed costings, because there are things like, well, you're not going to get the fridge. So actually, when we put the costings in for the building, you'll notice we ignored the chairs. The only thing that we were really disallowing on was the white goods in the kitchen. Because everything else that would be disallowed, like the audio visual system, we didn't put in the costings in the original quote, because we said all that's going to do is mean we get less of the architect's fees and less of the project management fees that we can reclaim the VAT on. So try and keep those separately. Start early. Some grants take over 12 months. We didn't go to the lottery because it was going to take 12, 13 months minimum. And we had a church with no heating. So we couldn't really look at them because the funding process was too long. So you need to start early and break it down into phases. Break your project down into little bits if you can. Even if you end up doing phase 1, 2, 3, 4 in one go, break it down because that may help you apply for funding. This is part 1, this is part 2, this is what we're trying to achieve. So that's last one is questions. Sometimes. Yes.
Why do you install the Wi-Fi? What was the purpose of installing your Wi-Fi meshes?
Why do we have Wi-Fi? Because more and more people want it, and if it's a community building with no Wi-Fi is not much of a community building. I'm a treasurer, and I want to have the second card reading machine in there, so I want Wi-Fi. And now, of course, we haven't predicted the pandemic, but we're streaming live from here, and the Wi-Fi is there. We can actually flip up and put a YouTube as part of the talk in the service. We can have much more dynamic parts of the service. We don't have to try and download it, which is dodgy. And we just put it up and it runs. So, for those at home, at home, the question was why we put Wi-Fi in the kitchen. Any online?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Yes, I'm thinking about Wi-Fi. On last Thursday, I was in Mullion, down on the Lizard, and they had Wi-Fi put in, and they've been able to do community training in computer expertise. So they've invited people in, and I was there and saw this happen. So there's so much you can do with Wi-Fi. In reaching out to community.
And the other aspect with the AV system, if you're looking on your iPads or phones, you'll see two Wi-Fi signals here. One is AV, one is just the main Martins. And the AV one is because actually you can control the AV from an iPad from the front. So if you've got a small service or a funeral or something, you can have it with a very basic setting, and you just say, okay, I just need to put that up. Side of increases time or whatever.
Great. So, and just to say as well about the community point of view, thank you for that. That was such a really helpful presentation. That whatever it is now, funders, which you did say, but I'm just going to repeat it, will want to know how does your project benefit your community. So always have that in the back of your mind. How what I'm doing is going to benefit the community. So that's kind of one of the vital things to have as your profile. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I've put my mic up, yeah, sorry,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Can I ask a microphone? It's not about power, it's about mobility. You mentioned that the whole complex, Mike.
Yes.
How has the improved usability of the church interacted with your whole complex activity and earnings perhaps?
One of the reasons we put into our grants was that Listgard is growing. They're building more estates all around the outside of Listgard, and there are no new facilities. And we were actually being asked, can I hire a room? And we were saying, no, it's full on Wednesdays, or it's full on this day. So we were turning people away. So part of the use of this was that we have another space that can be used, and the chairs can be cleared away. And with these 20 stacked and 25 in on trolleys, you can clear away and move it within sort of 15, 20, 30 minutes, and completely clear this out. Of course, we don't have a pandemic. And so, one of the questions I was expecting when I brought the laptop up was, how much does the under 40 thing cost to run in a building like this? And for the church, we're looking at electricity and gas. It's going to be around about £3,800, £4,000 for the year. But we haven't really sorted it out yet. We have periods where it's closed. We started running it high. I think listening to Stephen, we were keeping it at a constant temperature. I think we need to reduce the temperature and bring it up. But with the building being closed, we never really got around to getting it sorted out properly. But we're also getting about 2,300 from the feed-in tariff, because we're in on there. So our net running cost is quite a bit lower. But I think we can reduce those running costs, because I don't think we're being as smart as we should be with the under 40. But I think that's just a matter of getting used to any system.
We have a question from the Zoomers online. Charlotte asks, why do you still have a hall? Aren't most of those activities now happening in the church?
Why do we still have a hall? Aren't most of those activities happening in the church? No. We have got so much that goes on in the hall. The halls are being used every day, and this is one big space. Therefore, I can't have karate going at the same time as swimming world going at the same time as the weaving or the textiles. I can have three, not maybe, but we can have 3 or 4 things going on in the halls, and another one in here. We also have a little room in the back called a parish room, and we can have small meetings going on there. We have had training and things going on in that room. So it's actually extended our ability for community work, which is what was part of our application in our grants. We're turning people away. We need more capacity. This will give us more capacity. Hello, Charlotte.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you to Stephen. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to Jay. Thank you to Daniel for coping with the technology. Thank you to everybody who joined us on Zoom, those particularly who stayed with us. So we're going to finish our Zoom time now, and you will be receiving an email with slides and more information. So with our email addresses as well, if there's any further questions that you might have. So we look forward to seeing you in 2022. Thank you.